Charles Irvin.
Happy Friday, Leslie.
Happy
We
Friday.
made it.
You know what? It's been an adventure. Happy Friday, everyone. We'll let everybody come on in. We got a lot to talk about today, but I'm just glad I made it. I was, let's just say I was moving down the interstate at a brisk pace.
Probably an inappropriate speed.
I didn't say that, sir. I did not say that at all. I
Oh,
was, I was definitely following the law.
okay. All right.
So, I've been looking forward to the show today for a number of reasons. But won't you open us up as you always do and set the tone for today as all the guests are coming in? And you guys, I know you've had your questions, so get your questions ready for our guests so you can pop those up on the screen here shortly. So you're going to be able to ask. So don't ask me. I don't have the answers, but they will. So Charles, set us up.
So I'm gonna take a slightly different approach. I know we have some guests back in the green room that are getting ready to pop in, but I would say again, what a week. Um, President Biden has fast tracked his COVID response package. You had a Congress member stripped of committee because of incendiary remarks. Um, it's been a week, you know. It's been a week.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say it's been a week like no other.
Oh yeah, and things in the Biden administration tend to move fast. Only reason I'm mentioning is because sometimes we get a lot of focus on politics, a lot of focus on policy, and today we're going to do something slightly different. So I just wanted to recognize those two things. But isn't it interesting, Leslie, that even in politics, you need a strategy for how you get your opinion or your position across. And so with that, yeah, I mean, I know you sent out some promotional materials on what's your why, and we've talked about that from many different angles, especially during COVID, and trying to spur people into creative spaces to build their own brands and build their own things so that they can take ownership. And so today, I think we have a chance to ask the experts, um, how is that done?
Well, I think before we even get to that, Charles, I think we first have to start with how we met these two just dynamic young ladies, and just the value that we realize in just knowing them, and just really introduce them to our audience, for the ones that are watched now and for the ones that will be watching later. Um, why this is so important and special.
Yeah, well, uh, if you want to take it back to the 90s,
I was just a baby in the 90s.
yeah, well, we went to Miami. We went to Miami at some point during the 90s, and we met Lorraine Brown,
That we did.
and networking and friendships. Here we are decades later, and she made a referral. And so kudos to her for thinking of us in this space that we may be able to bring some business acumen to the table that could help Daupeaire realize what they're doing in some small way. But what we quickly realized is how dynamic they are as a duo.
Well, I mean, that indeed. And I think more important as we look at February, and I say it's the greatest month of the 12, and we know I'm biased as to why I say that. But I think it's also Black History Month. And we know every month is Black History, but particularly this month, we've been paying a lot of tribute to um, the special people and special women in our lives. Because I think it's safe to say I would not have be here if it wasn't for the women that have poured into me in my lifetime to keep me on track, keep me kicking the butt, to inspire me um, in all those critical moments and critical junctions in life where life kind of knocks you down. So I think it's important that it's only fitting today that we will hear from two young ladies as we lead and we continue our tribute to not only the legacy but the power, the influence, the inspiration, and just the amazingness of the Black woman.
No doubt about it. We've been going backwards in time and recognizing key figures. This is a chance for us to look at it head on right now, real time. Two trailblazers.
Yeah, and you'll see me. I'm working off two computers today, so if you see me over here, I'm just queuing up stuff, whereas I'm usually having it in front of me. So always trying something different. But you know what I say? I say it's time to bring our special guests in and let's get this party started. What do you say, Charles?
Let's go for it.
All right, let's do that. Let's go reach into the green room and bring them on board, and we can get this party started right about now. So let's do that. Hello, ladies.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday indeed.
Indeed it is. First of all, before we even get started, let's just start. We're going to hear a little bit about your story, but I want to start with the name because the name is so unique to me. So it has to have a meaning. It has to have a passion. Anything that unique has to have an origin that's special. So tell us a little bit about what is Daupeaire? Where did it come from? I already know it's dope, but tell us more about the birth of Daupeaire.
Well, it's funny that you say dope, right? Because, I think Charles, you had mentioned the 90s, and I think the word dope, don't get me on history, but may have probably gained momentum the most during the 90s. And honestly, when you say dope, I don't think you can really use the term without really having a strong affinity or like belief in something. So when you say, yo, that's dope, that's a stamp of real approval. And it's also a nod to, most times it's creative nuance, and kind of something that's unique about it that you don't really, you just know you like it, you're into it, and it hits you in a way that makes you respond by using dope versus that's good, that's awesome, that's amazing. Like dope gives a totally different air, and we'll get into air in a second, feeling. And then air is fluidity. I mean, a lot of what we'll talk about soon is just having like a fluid nature in our work and how we approach our strategy. So you put two and two together, you're creating an atmosphere, and that is where in itself the name came from. It's a feeling. Thought you
It
can
is.
feel.
A feeling. It has a certain je ne sais quoi. And so that's something that's dope. You can't quite put your finger on it, but you know that it's there. You can feel it. You can see it. And so yes.
All right.
I got to stop you there, Nehemiah, because that term right now in Jackson is definitely hot for another reason, because we have the illustrious coach of our alma mater, which is the 21st head coach, Coach Prime, uses that phrase. And he talked about that same thing, that special it thing, right? That's something you can't really describe. And so that's really the essence of the word for you two, in my opinion, because I think although you've accomplished a lot, I truly think the best is yet to come, because even in terms of just your vision, and we'll get into your why and the story of why you decided to take this journey, because there's always a lot of much easier roads you can take than a journey of building something new. So we'll love to hear about that as well. So now tell me about you two as individuals, and the story of Nehemiah and the story of Erica
Regine.
Oh, see, I had to
look. Leslie's in the spirit. He's in the spirit.
You know what, Charles?
I love the extra feel you put on it, though.
I need to be corrected at least one time right off the bat, so I can go ahead and get it out the way.
Okay. That's
right.
Here for. Imako, go ahead.
Sure. So as Leslie mentioned, my name is Nima Akko. I am a born and bred Norker, so I'm from Newark, New Jersey, and I have a 15-year history of working in public health. And so public health is where I've cut my teeth professionally for many years. However, I've always had an affinity for the arts and culture. As you can see by the side, the masks that are behind me, I was raised Pan African, and I was raised with a firm support for arts and culture. And so it's always been something I've been passionate about and interested in, but never had an opportunity to really sink my teeth in to do that type of work professionally. And so fast forward to 2019, I had the awesome pleasure to meet Erica on a project that we were working on, and I'm sure we'll go into a little bit more detail about it, but it was an amazing event that was hosted here in New Jersey called Black Girl Beach Day. And so I brought my operations, logistics, event planning, and production skills to this 1,100 person event that geared and centered Black women being on the beach. And so I served as an operations manager for that event, and Erica came in and brought her skill and her expertise in the PR for that event. And so we had a fantastic time. The event was an overwhelming success. And after the event, Erica approached me and said, "Hey, I have this idea. I have this business that I'm putting together, and I think that you would be a great fit to join to come on board." And so from that initial conversation, we literally just started talking and spending time together, and realized that we have a lot of synergies, and we have a lot of complementary skills and talents. And so my bringing in the logistics, the operations, that piece of it married really well, actually excellently, with Erica's creative spirit, with her creative mindset, and her creative approach to solving problems. And so we often say that we're two sides of the same coin. And, where I may have certain areas, growth opportunities and areas for where I can strengthen certain skills, Erica really picks those up, and those are areas where she's already strong in. And so that's a bit about myself and how we met. And I'll turn it over to Erica.
Yes. So I've spent 15 years in communications. So I like to kind of describe that as like 360 communications. And I say that because I kicked off in event planning and then ended up in advertising
Erica, can you
for,
speak up? You're a little light on the audio.
sorry,
There you go.
better?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. It might be my hair. um, So I've spent 15 years in communications, and I've kind of touched just about every corner of communications, from advertising for 4.5 years to PR for 5 years to event planning for about 7 or 8, and a combination of all those at any given time over the 15. And so coming from that, what it's really done is given me a really good foundation for understanding people, understanding audience, understand how to read audience, how to listen to audience, and to really kind of, in the nature of what I wanted to do with all of the understanding of audience is like how to creatively speak to them. And so I left corporate in about 2014 and knew I wanted to do something entrepreneurial. I knew that I definitely wanted to be in marketing, and I wanted to speak, and really kind of get in a space where a controlling room, if you will, for campaigns and ideas that are communicated to an audience that looks like myself. And so doing some project work. And like most good entrepreneurs, you realize that you can't grow the dream without a good team. And so, as Imako had mentioned, we had met on a social project in 2019. And from there, actually, before we officially made our partnership, started our partnership, we were on a second project for the Newark Arts Festival,
Yeah.
also in 2019. That was a huge year. And we just knew that we like it was like puzzle pieces, like where I felt that definitely I needed probably the most support. Here comes, Imako with all of the things that I was like, wow. And we both just feed off of each other. And, you guys see that when we're in meetings, how, and it's great actually even bouncing off you two because you guys understand that as partners yourself, being the yin to each other. That's definitely, I guess, a brief story of how we met. And then from there, we just knew that we wanted to grow something bigger. We have a great connection and a strong love for our community. a lot of the work that we do, we want to always have some level of impact, whether that's on community, whether that's on us as Black women, whether that's just on Black family, whether that's, talking to allies and understanding how to communicate with us as a culture better, and more intentionally. So, yeah, I hope that makes that a introduction more
It
understanding.
does. It does. And I want to jump in right here because you hit on something. Community.
Mhm.
What does that mean to you two?
Community for me is it's not just a noun, it's a verb. And so what does it mean to support? And so community to me means support. It means whether that is emotional support, whether that is fiscal, financial support, whether it's resource support, but it's how are you supporting those that are within your networks. And that can be, your given, familial networks, that can be your chosen family, your friend networks, that's your professional network, that's your extended networks. But what do you give, and then what do you also receive from your community? But community to me means support.
Definitely. Connectivity is a big a word that comes up immediately when talking about community. Just having an understanding of how everyone works and how we can work with one another. Um, Cooperative economics, if you will,
Yes.
and really just kind of leaning in and understanding how we can together be stronger, and believing that and working towards that, and really kind of getting to a space where it works together, and us all being able to achieve that. So connectivity is really big, and that obviously leads into communication and can really kind of and how to connect. You can go into so many different ways to talk about that, but that I think sums up really well on my end in terms of when I think of community.
That is wonderful. And I asked that because Leslie and I have set out on this journey together to try and educate our viewers about ways that we can expand our community.
Mm.
Um, and I think anytime we see the energy that you all share in that yin and yang, um, it opens the door to exploring how we continue to build community. Doesn't matter geographically where you are. If COVID has showed us nothing else, there's a Zoom, there's a way.
Right,
There's a way.
Indeed.
right.
There's a way.
And
Yeah.
community for us is also about being intentional. So Charles, you mentioned that earlier, that my sister referred us to you, but something that's been really important, and that is one of our core values at Daupeaire, is working with other Black-owned businesses, highlighting Black creatives, and elevating Black voices. And so for us, it's been important from the very beginning. I mean, when Eric and I, when we had to do our very first partnership agreement, before we had attorneys, before we had anyone else, it was just she and I. We knew that we wanted to make sure that our business had proper infrastructure from the very beginning. And so even when it came to getting it notarized, we literally looked to our community, and we looked to our Newark community. And so we went to it's a 40-year-old local insurance agency here in Newark. And so that's where we went to get our partnership agreement notarized. And so while we're sitting in the office, we see the plaques that this insurance agency has gotten from their community that says, you guys have been here for 40 years, you've been doing great work. And so it meant a lot for us to have, something as simple as just getting something notarized, but it meant a lot for us to be able to go to an establishment, a business that has had such deep roots within our community, to have them not just certify, but also give a blessing to our partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? I think that's phenomenal, particularly when you think starting out, all the things you have to think about, and most people don't think about that. And I think being intentional is what we talk about a lot, because it's what we're going to have to be if we're going to turn the curve. We have seen it from all sides, and one of the things I've noticed about you and Charles and I have a chance to work with a lot of new business, a lot of startups. We do a lot of startup agreements, infrastructure. And the one thing that I told you when we met you, I said the one thing you guys are ahead of the curve on is you guys communicate openly about all facets of the business, and that is not the norm. Charles, would you think?
Oh, definitely, I would agree. I mean, one of the highlights of working with you all is the openness. can't quite put your finger on it.
High five, Erica.
Hey, girl.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, we've already got some fans and some questions. So I want to get into this whole notion of branding because we have a lot of people who are either in business, they have a great idea, they have a desire to go in business, but for whatever reason, fear is stopping them from doing it. And they've been thinking and dreaming for years, for a long time, but they've never taken that action. Or you got the ones that have started, but they don't know how to make people aware of the problems they can solve. So I'm going to start by asking you that question. What problems do you solve? How do I know if Daupeaire can help me?
It's interesting because COVID has obviously changed so much for so many. And one of the main things I think when we first started discussing how we wanted to shape our business, what kind of services we wanted to offer, we actually met on two experiential projects, and a deep part of the work that we do was bringing experiences to life in spaces. So obviously that's going to take a really huge hit when spaces are no longer an option and people aren't convening as they once were. So, being fully transparent, we had to also kind of think about what made the most sense in terms of what felt was the biggest need in terms of our business because experiences aren't necessarily top of the list, but right now where so many people are pivoting and trying to figure out, especially you have a lot of businesses that weren't digitally prepared to make the shift and spent a lot of time in 2020 for the most part shifting.
Yes.
And what does that look like to your bottom line, your ROI, and then in many cases not necessarily knowing how to shift. So, it's not as easy as just saying, let me now go online. It's a strategy of now how do I gain audience online when people aren't necessarily walking through my front door? How am I communicating my products if they can't smell them, see them, touch them, feel them, hear them? Like how do I do that through a screen? How do I get someone in Mississippi, California, Canada, South Africa to buy something where I'm making it in St. Albans, Queens? Shout out to St. Albans. And how do I do that in a way that's effective where, they also not only just buy it, but become a loyal customer? So a lot of what we do is, and believe, is that a lot of business, good business, is starts at a foundational level. And so what we do is we create a strong foundation. We have a huge, a lot of services that are really geared towards business development because before the marketing, before going out to your audience, before building audience, you have to know who you are. I mean, even as a person, like as a founder, understand what you stand for, what you stand in, and what exactly you want to create. How do you want your audience to feel on you? And then once you're clear on that, oh yes, we can also take you there creatively where, and help you actually now amplify that message that you've settled on and get that out to the masses.
And to that point where Erica mentioned about the problem we solve is helping businesses figure out how they pivot, but it's also helping them figure out how do they operationalize or how do they make an idea that they have actually come to fruition. So it's one thing to have a fantastic idea, whether it's for a product or a service, but what is the plan? What is the strategy to actually help bring that to life? And so there are pieces that go into place, whether it's getting certifications, whether that's identifying where you're going to do, where you're going to host, where you're going to do whatever it is to make the idea come to life. But Eric and I do a fantastic job of being able to, one, ask those thought-provoking and very poignant and intentional questions to our client. Oftentimes we found that our clients will tell us, hey, we didn't think about that. So it's great that you asked us that question because we haven't thought about it yet, and actually give us a moment to get back to you so that way we can answer that question to fully be able to take advantage of the service that you all are offering.
Well, I'm not going to let you off that easy. So I'm gonna go deeper because I think that look, I'm a basic level kind of guy. So I learned early on. They told me, they said, when you were explaining it, make it to where a fifth grader could clearly understand it, and not only understand it but articulate what you're saying. So let's say I'm not that savvy in business yet. I'm not at your level, but I have a great product. I have a great idea. I have a great concept. And everything you just said went over my head. But here's my problem, right? I'm going to give you the problem and just kind of walk me through a scenario of how you would even have a conversation with me to help me identify some things that I possibly hadn't thought of and formulate a strategy, because I think it's important that we see how the working relationship works and why it's important to hire people and spend money to hire people to help you do the things that are just not in your wheelhouse, or you just literally might not have the time to do because you can't do it all. So here's the scenario. I am started a business. I got a brand. Let's say it's a
No,
consultancy.
hold on. Before you say that, you don't have a brand, you have a logo.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. You good point.
Right.
Good point, Charles. So I got a logo. I
Yeah.
don't have a brand yet because don't nobody even know I exist. But
Right.
I got a logo, but I think I have a brand.
Yes.
So and let's say my business. Give me a business concept, Charles. What I do. What I solve. Let's say
You like fruity drinks, so let's go with fruity drinks.
fruity. Oh, really? You just had to go. So let's say this. Let's say I've developed a fruity drink that's really tasteful, but it has 0 calories and 0 sugar. Right? No. It also is enriched with superfoods, but it doesn't taste like it has any of that. It tastes like lemonade, like strawberry lemonade. You know, it's that good. So it's very unique, very powerful, but it's very good for you. But nobody knows it exists. How do I take me through? I meet you, I hire you. What does that look like?
Well, one, did you mean to create it? And if so, why did you create it? What need did you satisfy creating it?
Okay, I can answer that. So, see, I have a love for all things sugar. Now, I do have a
Yes,
nickname,
he
but we're not
does.
going to go into it on this show. So, I have a love for all things sugar, and I do like the fruity drinks. I'm not a hard looking type of guy. So, I like the taste of it. I like the look of it, but most importantly, I love the taste of it. And I want it to be healthy. So I was inspired because I wanted people to be healthy, but I did not want to lose my ability to have the taste. See, even the dog agrees with me.
Yeah,
So
you got a special guest that says yes. Your
right,
drink
right.
is
So
sweet.
I didn't want to lose my taste and the ability to enjoy what I was eating. Because right now you eat something healthy, you know it's healthy. Like, you know. I hadn't figured out how to make spinach taste like macaroni and cheese yet. So it tastes like spinach. I don't care how you season it. I don't care how you chop it up. It tastes like spinach. So that was why I was inspired to create.
Well, you know what? Well, we'll say, well, in terms of their ingredients or what, because at the end of the day,
All right,
you
you gotta give
love
me a little bit more volume, Erica. I can't hear
you
you.
love what you produced in terms of you know what it tastes like, you know it tastes good. Now you're wanting to make that something that everyone else loves as much as you love. Now that's the work, right?
Right.
So so the question now becomes what then like going back to what problem solved. You want to appeal to people like yourself that also looking for very sugary. So I guess what I'm saying here is trying to define exactly what purpose exactly you're trying to get to fit your
Gotcha.
product into,
So I'm trying
right?
to reach the people that love sweets, but they want to be healthy and they need to be healthy for health
Hmm.
reasons, but they don't want to give up the taste. So so that's the target audience. The people that love, so everybody that goes to Chick-fil-A and gets lemonade, those are my people. I'm just saying.
So then it's about connecting that identified target audience with your product. So then Erica and I will look at, okay, well, if you're saying that it's the people that order lemonade from Chick-fil-A. So then Erica and I would then look and say, okay, well, based on the numbers of who buys lemonade from Chick-fil-A, where else are they considering buying a beverage? And how do we get your beverage in front of that audience? So Is it targeted marketing, whether it's on their in this day and age, is it on their social media? Is it through a mailer to their home? But we would discern that, we would do our market research and identify if that target audience person, if that target person for Leslie is that person that also buys lemonade from Chick-fil-A. Okay, well, where do we get Leslie's drink in front of that person that buys lemonade from Chick-fil-A? And not only that, but how do we make sure that the packaging is appealing? You said that you have a logo. Has that logo been tested with your key demographic? Have you seen, does that logo resonate with that audience? What is, how are the ingredients displayed on the packaging? How are the ingredients communicated to that target demographic? And so we will come up with those pieces for your product, as well as how it should be disseminated. Who is amplifying the message of this product? Whether it's grocery stores, whether it's, where do you want to see it? Is this a high-end product that is only in like a Whole Foods, or is this something that's accessible to everyone and it's in every grocery store? Is it also something that's in Walmart? So it's identifying, where is the best placement for this product? How do we get in front of that audience? And then what specifically is being communicated about your product to the audience?
Now, see, that's right there is why you need to hire professionals.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole lot. So I'm going to go to the put in your questions, family. As you can see, it's a lot to this marketing and branding piece, because you're right. If the people that like Chick-fil-A are the people that also will have a tendency to resonate to my product, I've got to be in front of them wherever they are. Mm-hmm. I don't need to be in front of Charles type of people because he don't do lemonade, right? So he ain't gonna spend no money with me. I don't need to. So why do I need to waste my marketing dollars in front of him when he gonna buy root beer and he not buying the lemonade? So that's very important. And I think a lot of times, even for me, we just throw money out there. We know we're spending X amount of dollars in marketing, but we really don't have time or really the patience for the quantitative analytical aspect of marketing, the testing, the split testing. You said something about how do they resonate with your logo? Does that logo appeal? I never even thought about that before. Like, does the logo appeal to the people you're trying to reach?
Yeah, there's so many studies behind colors and certain buzzwords and certain targets and such. I mean, and as simple as you might look at a McDonald's logo or a Nike logo, there's so much behind certain colors, and we can go, that's a whole conversation on its own. But I think something that we definitely do a deep dive in is like core work of a brand, that's the analytical part, but even understanding, the tone of your brand. Like, are you a funny brand? Are you a serious brand? Are you a sentimental brand? Do you evoke emotion through your messaging? Or do you want to, like, who is, when you are deciphering who your target is, and drilling down, when you finally identify them, how do you speak to them? What does your voice sound like? How often are you talking to them? What are you talking to them about? Because you have that great product, but you can talk about this can of amazingness it takes an art, I should say, to talk about that can of amazingness every single day, and to keep someone engaged every single day, and to want them to buy it once that it's down to the little last scoop of whatever it is that you, every single day. And it's not just product, it's anything, it's a service. It's a feeling that your brand, now, because we're taking from a product, which in itself can be, anyone can have a product, but brands live. Brands actually speak to people. Brands connect with people, so we are developing brands that are actually having relationships with their audiences, and conversations that lead to sales. A lot of what we're talking about is this idea of emotional marketing, which has been really big, trending, particularly in the last couple of years, and it's huge now because we're in 2020, where we've gone through so much and on such a political and social, stages. We can't just accept just any old thing if you don't, as a brand, necessarily stand by something, so.
That's deep. I'm gonna go to some questions, and I see my wife has already hit it up the chat box because we've had this debate, and I know I'm gonna be under the bus on this one because she was spending all this time, because she's a business owner as well.
Awesome.
in addition to teaching full time, and she loves everything travel. That's what she does. But when she was starting initially, we would have these heated arguments. I was like, why is it taking so long to pick a logo? Just pick a logo. And she was like, no, it didn't work like that. Pick a logo.
Yeah, it
And
matters. It's the first thing anyone will see about your brand. Before they have the opportunity to read anything about your brand, before they have the opportunity to hear anything about your brand, before they have the opportunity to taste anything from your brand or to try out, the first thing they're going to see is your logo. Your logo often will visually, people will see that and they will either connect with it or not. Sometimes people may see a logo and they're like, not so much, but maybe I'll still read a little bit more or find out a little bit more. Other times somebody may see a logo and just off the way it looks will dismiss it. And so it's very important to be intentional about every step about building your business. And so that's, and quick plug to Erica and I's titles within our organization. My title is I'm the intentional mover. And so that is something that is really critical and important for me personally, but also professionally, that anything I do, anything I say has intention behind it. Because if it doesn't, people will feel that. They'll pick up on that. Like, oh, that's just something you just threw together. Versus, oh, that logo is dope. There was thought put behind it. There was intention put behind it. Oh, I feel something. Oh, let me find out a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Antonio was reminding me, and we're about to come to questions now. Antonio was reminding me about, we have a nonprofit and how long it took us to pick that logo. And you're right, because there's a lot goes into that. It has to mean something, and it has to have an alignment with what you believe and who you are. So let me go to one of the questions here, coming from my better half, certainly. So here we go. It says, social media marketing is very overwhelming. I am unsure which one to focus on. What should my content be, and how often should I post?
Yes. So I love this question because I'm a big believer, and I think even just internally, Imako and I discussed this also, and just how to amplify our business. So there's work always done on both ends with clients and also with ourselves, right? So each platform, and even now there's so many that are growing, but they all kind of they all for the most part, one, you utilize them to communicate different things. So Twitter is more conversational, Facebook is more family oriented, a little bit of conversation as well as images, but a lot of connectivity and grouping. You have Instagram, which is more visual. You have Pinterest, which is more curation, so and the list goes on and on. If you're a video, TikTok, which is, a lot of content producers are on TikTok right now, creating, a lot of easy form content that they can utilize to market their products. So TikTok has shot up in the last year, particularly at everyone's home and saving their dollars. They're kind of, turning to TikTok to do their own content. So, and I say that to say, knowing and understanding your brand then allows you to know what space you play the best in. So if you are a brand that has a lot to say, perhaps Twitter then is the place for you to heavy up your efforts. If you're a product and you are looking to showcase the attributes of your brand, you want, again, we're working in digital space. They're not coming in to smell, taste, feel, so you need to show how, it's at least demonstrations. Then you need to be moving towards a more video focused platform. So understanding what makes the most sense in how to market your product. If you're an influencer and you're, a talking head or a person that, your voice is your service, your voice is your product, then you want to be on a platform that you can speak more, and so Clubhouse, which now is skyrocketing, it might be a great platform for you. So there's different spaces, and it all seems very overwhelming, but they don't necessarily all do the same thing. It's about what you need and how to utilize the best avenue to get the most out of it.
And so, also about, sorry, the other thing I was to add is all about phasing it. Again, you don't have to do every social media platform all at once. So to Erica's point, being able to say, okay, well, which platform will allow me to connect with my target audience the most? And so if that's Twitter, then you can be on Twitter, and then once you really get a handle for Twitter, you get the hang of it, you're in a flow for it, then it's okay, well, maybe I can expand and go from Twitter and go a little bit into Facebook or Instagram. Is it, being able to take my tweets, and I see people on Instagram do this a lot. They literally will screenshot the tweet and post that on Instagram and then generate additional conversation around that same tweet, but just doing that on Instagram. So it's a matter of, okay, well, you don't have to do them all at one time. You can do one at a time and see, okay, I got to hang on Twitter. Okay, maybe I can try Instagram. Okay, I got Twitter, Instagram down, and then ideally by that point your business has grown. So maybe you've been able to hire a social media intern or a social media manager that then that person can ideally be able to manage more than one social media account or more than one platform for you.
Okay. And then coming back to that question, I think the second half of that question was for Marsha. She has travel. It was like, how often should she post? Is that something she should be doing daily, multiple times a day? Travel is something that is visually appealing. So I'm imagining Instagram would probably be a great platform for that, but I don't know. So talk to that a little bit.
Capacity is big. I mean, you can't commit to something that you really can't commit to, right? So I think it's also being honest about what capacity looks like. And I think also what happens is a lot of times, particularly in this beginning phase of business, you're one person many times. You might be two if you're lucky, but there's still so many other things you do. You're creating product, you're also in itself initiating the service, you're executing the service. So we get it. It's a lot happening. So I think probably the strongest advice there is what you do put out, make sure that you are covering your bases. Create a story and of understanding of what you are looking to promote, and then think about that in terms of how and you can actually communicate that out to your audience. Now, that's something that we definitely work on in terms of social strategy is, you know, um, going back to what Nimako had mentioned about phases, like it's very important not to just also just hit people with so much at one time. It's like dating, if you just meeting someone and all of a sudden they're trying to kiss you, it's like, whoa, I'm just getting to know you, So it's a warm up phase, it's a courting phase, that we definitely usher our clients into so they understand. And also they're getting to know their audience too. Like it's a two-way relationship, it's not just one-sided. You get in that phase, you get to understand what they like, what they love, what really works that well, what they can't get enough of. And then you can apply that to phase two because now you can just scrape out all the stuff that didn't work and focus on the stuff that did.
So I have a couple questions based off of this. Is wonderful. I hear you. I hear what you're saying in a form of trust, building trust in a two-way relationship with your potential client. And then my other question goes back to something that Marco said about the logo being that first visual representation. Is there an estimated time frame of how long a person gives you when they're looking for something? Like, is it quick? When they're making that decision?
It depends. So it also depends on at what stage that particular business is in their own development. Have they, do they have a mission statement? Have they identified their core values for their business? Do they have a clear definition for whatever it is that they're offering, whether it's a product or a service? And so depending on what phase they're in, are they an established business? Are they someone that's been around for 5, 10, 15 years and they're looking to refresh their brand or refresh their business visually? So all of those things we take into consideration and are required considerations to make before we can say like how long something will take. Also, if they may bring us into a project, are we is our piece of the work the only piece that's happening, or are there other parts of the business that are also being developed at the same time? And so one of the things that Daupeaire prides ourselves on is one, our holistic approach to working with our clients. We make sure that we look at their needs from a 360 perspective, and then being able to come up with customizable strategy for them. Of course, we're going to be able to make recommendations, but no two businesses are the same. Which means that for us, no two solutions can be the same, and that will actually, not be good for us to be able to say to try to fit, square pegs in round holes, but to be able to say, hey, you're a square peg, so let's find the absolute best square box or square hole to be able to put you in. If you're a circle, then let's make sure we find the right circle. Now, the size of that, we may be able to say, hey, we really see that there's opportunity for your business to be able to grow. So while you may be thinking your circle home may only be this big, we actually see the opportunity for it to be this big. So here's where we're going to take you. And so that's something that Erica and I do really well with our clients is we're able to say, hey, we know that this is what you need. This is what you asked from us. We can absolutely do this, but we also want you to think about this. Because once this is complete, once we've gotten this done, then it opens up the opportunity for this.
I love that.
So that means you're giving them what they asked for, but you're also providing a pathway for growth into other areas.
Right.
Yep.
It's important to give foresight, this idea of foresight, because a lot of times, because just being in the waist deep in it all, you might not necessarily have the time to really see what 3 years, 5 years, or even 6 months from now could potentially look like. Or, just being so involved in the creation of what you're doing, you might not realize that it's probably, it probably has or can take on different legs that you're not allowing it to grow. So a lot of what we do, particularly in the recap, we offer our clients a recap to assess, the work that we've done, and then we also provide them with some, just like some thought starters of where they could potentially go and how they can engage us further as well. But it's also, very helpful exercise for them to see how they could potentially project their business, because there's always room for growth. And the fun part about the business that we do is that we have a great time, like really kind of walking clients through that, because it's amazing when you can see your dream and your dream being your dream in itself is exciting, but having someone inside your head with you and then helping you actually house clean and build, create this interior design, and like that's a whole nother thing. And we're basically interior designers for your mind.
Man, you got
Interior designers and organizers for your mind.
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
Wow, it's just, even I'm sitting here and it's so refreshing. I'm just listening to the fullness of the conversation and just really the fullness of what you guys do for brands. So here's a question. I had a couple. I want to pivot a little bit. So I'm looking at some of the businesses that I know that are represented that I'm looking that haven't asked yet, but I want to get to some of these. So let's say you're a nonprofit and you, in a traditional sense, right? You have a service. You obviously have a service that you sell, and I'm going to take, for example, ours, which works for kids, a very targeted segment of kids, to make sure that they get not only through high school, but either get in post-secondary career of some type or either into higher education. What would you say to a brand that's a nonprofit? So it's a little different than a traditional brand. They still have to get exposure in order to get the donations to fulfill the mission of their work. What would you say to them?
You got it, Eric? Or so it's interesting you mentioned that. I'm actually on the board for a youth development foundation here in New Jersey, and that's been part of the work that I've been doing. And then Erica knows I've even asked her and have bounced a couple questions on her. But a big part of that is still, whether it's a nonprofit or for profit, you still have a target audience. And so for your nonprofit, what's two parts for a nonprofit? Are you looking to recruit participants? So that would be one type of marketing. Then the other part would be, are you looking to recruit funders and donors? And that's getting into, nonprofit development and fundraising is its own beast in a sense. But again, it's still getting in front of your target audience. So who are the major givers and donors in your city, in your county, in your state? Who are the major philanthropic players in that area, in that region? What niche are you targeting? You mentioned, it's in youth development and working with young people. So who are the people that love young people? Who are those entities that say, hey, if it's about the kids, sign me up. And it's about getting your nonprofit in front of those individuals and those entities. So they say, hey, if I'm looking to give back to youth in Jackson, then I know that this is the foundation I can go do that with.
Right.
And awesome. All right. Let me put this up.
Hold on one second, Liz. Go ahead, Eric. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, just adding to that, because you had mentioned a very good point. It's a different type of business when you're dealing with a non-for-profit. And, the biggest thing or goal with non-for-profits is to raise funding. So, when asking anyone for money, the main thing is, or in terms of that exchange, is why do I need to give you money? And does that that cause means something to me. So
Mhm.
and it's very basic but very important. And a lot of times people aren't connecting those dots to answer those questions or shaping their story, purpose, or mission in order to create better understanding for both pathways to really operate. So, a big part of the work that we do is story. We are huge on the story and creating a storyline that runs through your business that connects to your audience or your donor or your, you know, investor, and that could be at pitch level, that could be, at a repositioning level for a product or a revamp, if you will, but all that to say that it's very important in that space to just make sure that story is strong.
You know, just going back to some of the comments that we've gotten, and I'm going to post one here in response to that. And Marcia says, it sounds like you meet new clients where they are and develop a plan of action from that point.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I mean,
absolutely.
that's the only way we can. I mean, we can't. And we've actually we've kind of learned that the hard way of um,
Right.
wanting to take wanting to take a brand beyond where they are right now. And so it's also helped Erica and I to fine tune and further develop even our approach to supporting our clients and being say, okay, how do we make sure that we again meet their need and meet them where they are
Hmm.
and not overwhelm them with the possibility of where things can
Right.
go. And remembering that when we're doing our work, that we're doing our work for where they are right now. And that by doing our work where they are right now and exceeding their expectation and doing that incredibly well, will open up the opportunity for us to be able to grow that business, grow that brand, grow that entity into what we see that they can be.
Right.
Definitely.
Charles, did you have something?
No, I'm
Yeah.
all
So,
smiles right now because
and
uh,
Charles said yes. I also want to bring up, we have another business that we work with, a client of ours. It's Mr. Sean Harris is on, and Angela helped welcome Angela. I see Angela's has joined in a little late for Mike TV. Hey, Angela. The on with Daupeaire, Angela. I know you shoot your questions in. I'll make sure I get them up here. So the other thing is, so I'll take Sean won't mind. I'll take Mr. Harris for example. So he's the bartender extraordinaire, but he has a company that's a bartending service, and they cater all events, and they take care of insurance needs, everything. So basically, when you hire him, he shows up. You don't have to worry about anything. You don't buy liquor. You
Mm-hmm.
don't eat. Full service, does everything. Presentation, state of the art, all of that. But we had the pandemic, so that takes a pivot on events in a traditional sense. So one of the things that he and I have been working together on is developing a course. And so we're almost finished with that course and going to be ready to market that course. And the first course is designed for, he has a better, and Sean, jump in any minute and give me your description of
yeah,
it. He has a cool way of putting it. If you know Harris, you'll understand what I mean. He has a way with words. But he basically said this course is targeted to people that it's just six drinks, six core drinks. They want to know how to make the drinks, but at the same time, you want to make sure that when they make the drink, because they come to your brand, that they making an old fashioned and not a Sex on the Beach calling an old fashioned. Making sure they know
Mm.
what
Very
to do, how
important.
to do it, and how to use the tools and things you have at home, because he realizes people at home, we don't have professional bartending tools.
Hmm.
So how to use what you have to make the same level of drink. He's really made it really simple, really fun, really light. And so that's been one of the pivots. But any advice to Mr. Harris and what he does as he pivots during this pandemic?
Um, the food industry is probably one of the industries that probably got hit the hardest. And it's really kind of it's one of those. I love the fact that you guys are going into the route of bringing the experience into the home.
Mhm.
And I believe that that's for sure the trend ongoing for some time. Like that's going to be going on for some time. So, just being able to create and build upon that experience and make it unique to yourself. How does that experience become your trademark or your signature?
Hmm.
And really focusing in on that because as we spend more and more and more time home, those moments are going to be needed more until we
Hmm.
figure out how we can really get back to a place of normality.
And I would say two things. One, people are still celebrating. So there's still birthdays, anniversaries, promotions. There's still celebratory times that are happening. And so who doesn't want to celebrate with the cheers? And so what does it mean to be able to someone that can book you for a celebratory cheers and you send them everything? So it's a course, but
Mm.
it's
Oh,
personalized. So if Leslie, you and your lovely wife celebrated, this was last year, celebrated your wedding anniversary. So what would
Right.
it look like to me to say, hey, I'm going to book this, this bartender that's going to lead us through this couples course on how to make an anniversary cocktail. And that anniversary cocktail can be a specialty cocktail that's just for you and your wife.
oh wow.
You guys get on Zoom, you guys get on Zoom, and you sit, and ahead of time, ideally to the fellas out there, this requires a bit of forward thinking, but
Right.
you send that information in advance so that way Sean then will mail you your ship you, or depending on if he's local, maybe contactless delivery and
Hmm.
drop off your kit, your anniversary kit. So
Right.
Wow.
that's part of your celebration. The second idea is partner up. Again, you're not the only person that's going to do this. So who
That's
are your
right.
local caterers that, are they offering any type of, whether it's meal prep or anything like that. So in addition to getting your food delivered, you can also get your cocktails delivered. So
Hmm.
if it's somebody, link up with a
Pairing.
chef.
Right.
Link up with a chef and say, hey, chef so and so has created this custom dish, and our in-house mixologist Sean has paired it with this cocktail, and
Hmm.
for $49.95 you get them both, and what have you. But
There you
so
go.
those two things. So one, celebrations are still happening. So tune into that. People still want to celebrate and they want to celebrate safely. And then two, partner.
Hmm.
We talked about this earlier in the conversation that around cooperative economics and building community. So, what does it mean to again partner with a chef, partner with a cook, and being safe? Who doesn't want to eat and drink? We all
Right.
want to eat and
Yeah.
drink.
That's
So
that's
put
the
them two
one
things
industry that's
together.
not flipping. So
No,
They
there's
drop.
people are
They,
that
people are
is
drinking.
it is not flipping. So there's tons of opportunity, and I have a definitely spent some time in the spirits industry. Mailers also. If it's not a sit down situation, how do you minimize, a situation that you can actually mail, like gifting, to Mark's point in
Hmm.
terms of how to bring the experience to people. If it's not enjoyed amongst the home that's ordering, that's also something they can gift in that opening. Who doesn't want to have a cocktail sent to them or a drink sent on their friend? You look at 1-800-Flowers, it's kind of like a similar situation.
Exactly. Yeah.
man,
Folks out
they
there.
dropping. They dropping them bombs.
Yeah. I mean, that is magic right there. That's dope air.
That's dope. I told you
Yeah.
they were dope.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Here's the $1 million question, right? So how can a company work with you? And two, is a company allowed to come in? They might start at one level and grow with you because
Absolutely.
everybody might not be at that big level right now. But how if they want to work with you now and don't want to wait, can they start working with you today? And how do they do that?
Absolutely. I think one of the beautiful things about how we work is we do offer an option to come on project based, which we find to be great because we then get to really familiarize ourselves with our working relationship with the client. Before jumping into a long contract. Sometimes it can really just be a 3 to 6 month moment where we're focused and hyper focused on something that's really important, whether that's a launch, whether that's a new release of something, a revamp, your website just went live. These are moments that you want to concentrate your efforts. If you don't have a lot of marketing budget, but you want to make sure that it's impactful, look at your calendar. What's important that's going on in your product line or your product drops that you need to put extra focus on, because the money that you're investing in, you want to make sure you're getting an ROI on. So linking up, service to those calendar moments and making sure that you're putting the right support behind it. So, when it goes off, it's sailing and not sinking. And so, all that to say, that's definitely a way that you can engage us. You can engage us through project-based work. We love retainer long-term with clients. We're just like families. So, all of it definitely always starts with a consultation. We offer 30-minute consultations you can book right on our website, which is scrolling nicely at the bottom of our screen currently in the ticker, daupeaire.com. And if you go to contact, you can book us right there.
I mean, look, Charles, we're gonna have to.
And we might have to do a part 2.
But because, guys, I got to tell you, if you missed the show, go back and watch the replay. If you're in business, you want to get help. They have dropped nothing but bombs today, and so I think there was something for everyone. I'm sitting here thinking, Charles, as we plan, we're gonna need to do some retuning because we're gonna need to elevate our relationship with Daupeaire. I also know that I got a client, Greg is on here checking us out, and I'm gonna be connecting Daupeaire to Greg and his organization, and he's checking you guys out today. So I talk to you guys all the time, and I'm blown away. I'm feel like how did I miss this? How did I not get this the other 8 times I talked to you? But it was really real. I like the fact that there's nobody too small, there's nobody too big. You guys meet people where they are, and that's really the beauty of it. Because if you can help somebody grow, you grow with them, right? And and help them evolve and diversify and grow. All right, so
the work we do will grow you.
Right. So here's my tribute. I know Charles usually does this. We ask you guys to give us the women, the Black women that have inspired you. As you look at your lives, who are those women? And it may be several that have really inspired you to do what you do and to become the ladies you are.
Okay, so I have 3.
Oh, you bumped it up. You did.
I did. So only because the third one just popped in my mind. I was like, how could I not? Yeah. So I'll save the best for last. So my 3. So my first is Bessie Coleman, who was the first Black woman pilot. She was born here in the U.S., but then went to France to get her pilot's license. And to be a Black woman in the 20s, to say, oh, y'all can't meet my needs here, then I'm going to go where they can meet my needs. And to do that on her own and to have such success it's incredibly inspirational that no box can keep you in, and that with hard work and dedication, anything you want can happen. The second is Dr. Kizzy, and I want to make sure I say her last name right. Her name is Dr. Kizmika Corbett, and she is the Black woman viral immunologist who led the team that created the COVID vaccine. Again, she is a Black woman that is changing the face of STEM, that is breaking barriers in non-traditional spaces where Black women are, and she's doing it as a proud Black woman, unapologetically Black. And for those 2 women in particular, they're both Aquariuses, and they both share my birthday of January 26th. So those are some fun facts about those. And then the third, and certainly not least, is my grandmother, Laura Marie Early Brown. Her birthday was June 26th, but she was a woman that left her hometown of Estill, South Carolina in 1955 and migrated north to Newark, New Jersey on her own. She spearheaded that migration for our family. And so it was her and my grandfather, but much to her leadership. And she's the reason why my family has settled in Newark, why so many of my family is here. She's the reason why I exist. And so she is a powerful woman, a woman that knows her worth, a woman that was not afraid to speak her mind and to go after what she wanted. And so those are 3 women that deeply inspire me.
Awesome. Erica?
So I picked 2. Maya Angelou, and she impacts me so heavily as a creative. And I think what she represents to me, beyond her being just a phenomenal poet, of course, is this idea that you can't box creativity in. And what a lot of people don't realize about her was she was also a dancer, she was an actress. She lived so many lives, and I think at the base of it, if I unfortunately never got a chance to meet her beyond the pages that I've read her words, but at the base of it, it was, you expression and creativity in itself is always going to be innate to you. It's not about how you or where you. It's a fact that you. And I hope that makes sense. Um, so so much of her speaks a lot through so much of me. In so many phases of life. I've started reading her when I was 8. And I've read her over the years in so many different iterations. I listened to her. I've never listened to Maya Angelou on Why They Say First Things over beats. Get your life. It's affirmation. It's all the great things. And then the second person is my mom. My mother is
Yes, Miss Regina.
yes, the real regime. Regina. So I'm actually my last name is actually my middle name. My mom named me after her. And one thing talk about branding and stories. The reason why I go by my first and middle name was before I met my amazing husband. I thought to myself like, I want to build myself and never have to necessarily pivot like or change or have to reintroduce myself. I'm always going to be my first and my second name. So that was, and also an honor to my mom. So my mother represents effortless living to me. And it's so important because, especially over this year where we have really been quarantined and have to deal with so much, um, it's important to breathe and to be thankful and show gratitude. And she represents so much of that. And it's funny because to talk to her, she's like, "What, me?" She'll probably look at this interview and completely just be blushing and have no idea. But the fact that she inspires me so much without even trying, I think that's great power.
And I'm gonna double down and ditto on that because Miss Regina is goals. Okay, goals.
So my mother is, yes, and she's a great example of a Chris gets greater later.
Awesome. Awesome. Charles, you want to take us out, sir?
I'm happy to do it. Daupeaire, what's in a name? Ladies and gentlemen, you just got to witness what's in a name. It's energy, it's je ne sais quoi. It's all of those things. And it's Black excellence.
Thank you.
It's intentional. And right about now, we need that intentional spirit as we continue to grapple with where we may be in the next 1 month, 6 months, a year with COVID. I'm so grateful to have them as clients, friends, and just out in the world blazing the trail. So I think it's wonderful to see that co-op in action today. So audience, go back and rewatch, as I will, because you can learn just from this 1 hour meeting. So much knowledge in just a few minutes.
And guess what? And if you got a problem that they can help you solve, hit them up at Daupeaire.com. As they say on their website, holla. Right?
Holla at us.
That's right.
We ready to work. We ready to work.
Always.
It
Thank you
is.
so much for having us, guys.
Yes, thank you so much for having us. It's been so much fun.
No problem. Until next Friday, guys, be safe, wear your mask, and see you next week.